Welcome back to the Charismatic Voice. So many of you have been asking for us to return to Tool, so that's what we're going to do today. Specifically, we're going to be listening to The Pot. This comes from the album 10,000 Days, which won a Grammy in 2007 for Best Recording Project. And The Pot specifically was nominated in 2008 for another Grammy, so I guess it comes pretty highly recommended. I am a little bit familiar with Tool. I went to a concert a few years ago, and I'm told that The Pot was on the set list, but I didn't really know any of their songs at the time, so it was all pretty new to me. But that means I have heard it before, but I definitely have not heard it recently. I was not familiar with it at the time, so I think this is going to feel like a really fresh take. Definitely looking at the lyrics, I didn't remember them from before. Wow, they are intense. It seems to be about hypocrisy, especially surrounding drug culture and judgment in marijuana too. So I think this is going to get very deep, and I'm looking forward to it. Let's get to it.
Who are you to wave your finger? You must have been out your head. I hold deep in muddy waters. You practically raised the dead. Rob the grave to snow the cradle, then burn the evidence down. Soapbox house of cards and glass, so don't go tossing your stones around. You must have been high. You must have been
Okay, before it really gets going in here, I'm going to go back to the beginning and catch this again. Of course, because we do that a lot on this channel. Go back to the beginning. And this is because there's so much often to take in these first few moments of listening to a song. It's like, it feels almost overwhelming to not get to hear it more than once. So we're going to go back. One of the things that really caught my ear was that there seems to be like a really light echo/delay. I almost wondered if I even heard it, but it seemed like it was back in there. So I'm going to listen for that again. I really love the cleanliness of Maynard's vocals and the way he relates the words. He always seems to have some pent-up energy too, which is really interesting. Like there's about some anger about to burst. It's I think it's a wonderful way to not necessarily overflow with emotion, but it feels like there's always emotion bubbling right underneath the surface in his voice. And man, when the drums came in, I really like Danny Carey's drumming. I do remember one of my huge takeaways from that Tool concert was a new appreciation for drums. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing during that entire concert. It was like, wow, he's a god on drums. It's just amazing. So anyhow, I love the way that the drums came in on one side of the headphone, sort of migrated over to another side. There's so many different kinds of timbres within the drums as well. It's really cool. Okay, back. Whoop.
Who are you to wave your finger? You must have been out your head. I hold deep.
Oh, that's so weird. There is like an echo that comes in before the most present melody comes in. I don't know why they did that, but that's a really cool production element. It makes my ears perk up before you even get the main line. It's an interesting way of grabbing attention. I should mention as well, we've chosen to do a version from the album with the album art here rather than an official music video or a live performance. And that's because there isn't an official music video and there wasn't a good live performance recording with great audio quality. So I wanted to listen to something that had really beautiful audio quality. I'm also very interested in how they produced it since it won a Grammy. So let's go back to the beginning one more time.
Who are you to wave your finger? You must have been out your head. I hold deep in muddy waters. You practically raised the dead. Rob the grave to snow the cradle, then burn the evidence down.
Oh man. I love the way that Danny Carey is throwing us off the time signature scent every now and then in here. It does seem like at this point, once we had like the whole band enter, and it felt like it really feels like the instruments arrived in a quote chorus. And that was when we had an indication of this is the arrival of like the main theme of the song or something. And I think that's so cool, the way that the instruments play just as big of a role as the vocal does in Tool's music. It's really spectacular, especially considering how talented and, well, just really dedicated and extremely good each of these musicians are. At the very beginning, it was interesting to listen, and I wasn't able to catch a time signature initially. I would think I had it for a moment, and then would think that it switched. And then we entered, I think it was right around You Must Have Been High. It seemed like right there, I got a really clear sense of that 4/4 entering in. And then in the next set of what I call like the next measure, all of a sudden I hear a really strong beat that isn't on what I would consider the downbeat. And then it returned to 4/4, and then there was that strong beat on what didn't seem like the downbeat again. I think that Danny Carey's just messing with us. I think that there actually is a 4/4 out throughout the entire time, but it's really fun how he likes to throw something in that makes us like feel almost doubtful, like reality just had a sudden shift and you're not really sure where you are. So I'm going to go back to that part, see if I can find it, count it out with you guys.
So much house of cards and glass, so don't go tossing your stones around. You must have been
right here. So up until that point, it almost sounds like we have different time signatures going in different instrumental parts sometimes, which is super cool. I'm not sure that's actually happening, but the way that they're accenting certain notes makes it difficult to find a certain definite downbeat. But I'll show you where's the first downbeat that I'm like, yeah, that's it, right there. So, boom, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now Danny throws us off right here. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Right. There's a little bit of angularity. And that's because he's essentially hitting like more of a strong beat. If you're looking just at the amplitude or volume of that drum kit, it gets suddenly louder. Instead of on the downbeat, it happens right after. And that's what makes it feel like one of those measures feels slightly off. That's a really cool way of messing with your audience. It's complicated and fun and probably has some deeper meaning because these guys have deep meaning in every single thing they do. Okay. Some fun expression. I'm digging the way that Maynard really goes to his diphthongs early and accentuates them. So one of the really good examples was out instead of out, which out is a diphthong, meaning that there's two vowels in it, an ah and an oo. Out, bout, both of those are diphthongs. And most singers would linger on the first vowel of that pair and then close to the second one very quickly. That's sort of the standard way that's trained. Otherwise, you get a very interesting effect, but Maynard's like, no, I want to go for the effect. And so he goes out and really hangs out on the ooh part of it. There's a couple times he does that during this verse. I'll point him out. What you talking about? Right? Oh, I couldn't have had better timing. Talking about instead of talking about. Talking about. I love that out, pull it out, has this slide that leans into the ooh vowel early as well. It like has like a little extra snarl in there. I'm also just loving the stylization. He also often has this like sort of dip, like just slight slides, and it sounds like they're almost always the same amount away from the pitch that he slides into each time. It's pretty cool. His consonants have so much energy in them. It's like they're sizzling with that same pent up emotional energy. It feels like it's almost like furious, like anger that's sizzling underneath all the time. And you hear him just lash that out in the consonants. And it's great because he has so much energy in his vocal, really his vowels as well. You need to have a certain matching energy, I think. Sometimes people don't match the energy and they just use production to help them with that. But I don't think that's what Maynard does, especially at this point. It doesn't sound like he's got tons of like extra compression and like all kinds of plugs on his voice. It sounds like he's really doing this with his own voice instead of adding the layers on top. So I like the way that it sizzles in the consonant and then stays present in the vowel and then sizzles in the consonant again. That's very impressive to me. I like that it's carrying the energy all the way through. And I also really love the way that he is so clean about his pitch. He's really specific and always, always on the money. It's great. It's fantastic. And yet at the same time, he'll still add little slides in there, but they tend to be really tasteful. And then when he lands so clearly on a pitch. It's really just beautiful mastery, I think, of being able to adjust the pitch a little bit or just be right there in the center of it. Okay, so that H on hung the juror is a great example of putting tons of extra energy in a consonant. So a lot of people just say hung the juror, and there's very little air that's shot through that H. H has a lot of aspiration. And he really like channels a whole bunch hung, and H's are one of the more difficult consonants to also project. So you really hear him putting a ton of extra behind it. One more time. I like it a lot. It's so easy for an H to get lost, and I hear that one clearly, which is beautiful. Ooh, that was a good run. Ooh, it's a nice belt too. It's a clean belt. I loved the run there earlier as well. It was really, it was fast. It was specific. Yeah, I love that. He's a very specific singer. Has tons of specificity. And I bet you were also thinking, dang, those are good H's. Every time he said hi, each time he's got great enunciation. It's fantastic. All right, we'll keep going. I like that. Wow. Oh man, it's kind of sounding like that angry energy is starting to erupt now. It's like, poof. Wow, that's intense. And also in the instruments, that sliding note right before this section, really builds a lot of tension, makes me kind of shudder a little. I feel like there's a ton of emotion that's spilling over in here, right? Who are you to wave your finger so full of it, eyeballs deep in muddy waters? Hypocrites. So I think it's just really clear to me. Hypocrisy was the big message that I got when I was going through these lyrics, for sure. Essentially, somebody judging somebody else that is not like that person seems to be doing exactly what the other person's doing. And I understand like how that would be incredibly frustrating. And not just that, but enough to write a song about with this kind of emotion. The the lyrics definitely paint a picture of someone who is essentially using marijuana while judging somebody for using marijuana. And there's just this system of like, well, whoever gets caught, and it doesn't seem like it's fair. So I think the song correctly captures the emotions of feeling the unfairness of a system like this. Okay, let's go back a little bit and then keep going. Nice slides up there too. Ooh, it was like a nice fry scream right there. Ooh, wow. That was fun. I was busy listening to the way that the instruments, especially I think the guitar seems to have like a shudder, almost like it's glitching at times. And so it's just really interesting sounds to me in the way they're combining. Whew, but that fry scream. Okay. Here, maybe. Yeah. It was like a banshee just popped out. Ooh. Really interesting to hear that shift here. So they had started following enough patterns that I was wanting to expect certain things, and right here the instrumental is just shifted. They stayed with the same time signature, but I started to hear a different melodic pattern in the bottom, which is curious to me. I'm not sure why that shift happened. Another thing, well, let's go back a little bit and point it out. Yeah. I feel like I hear a doubling of Maynard in there. I think that maybe they doubled his voice, or had him sing over the same track. Not sure. I thought I heard a couple different voices in there at one point, though, which is interesting. I didn't catch that earlier, so it might be building. It is really noteworthy to say, though, that his voice is coming through so clearly in this. I love the vocal production of it, because a lot of times when you have massive sound happening in other instruments, it can cloud over a voice. And I'm just hearing tons of really great clarity in Maynard's voice right now. Let's go back just a little bit more, see if that doubling is happening indeed. Yeah, there's a harmony. It might just be a stereo verb that's such a cool shift. Oh man, I love the way that built up to this release. That it started really back at that shift in the melodic material underneath. And that was also shifting a little bit of harmonic material there. It had a really great build and release right here. Oh, cool. Um, and that, as far as that doubling is going, we heard a little bit of harmony there, but I think that maybe you've got also double on the voice, but it might just be some production as far as like a delay and reverb that's happening, is because I'm getting quite it feels like I have a Maynard's voice that's up close and one that's also back further away in the mix, which is very interesting. Okay, keep going. Oh, what a cool instrumental section there. I love the way Danny Carey uses pitch within the drums. It felt like something ran up and then ran away. And you can hear that partly in volume, but also in how he's using different pitches within his drums. That was really fun. Let's go back just a little bit and listen to that. Oh, the distortion there is crazy. I just feel like he makes me think of a drum kit in a different way. It's unique. It's incredible. I really love the way it feels like he has created sometimes a melodic instrument of the drums, which are just fundamentally not melodic, right? And I think it's interesting how it feels like he plays in waves. He's definitely a drummer I would study endlessly. And if ever I was going to learn how to play drums, I would say like it'd be fun to learn. I'm sure everybody probably says this that plays drums, but I feel like I would idolize Danny Carey's playing and aim for that the most. Really cool. He was like focusing on just certain areas of the drum kit in there. So you can hear like, oh, we're going to focus more with some cymbals or like more kicks in here. I'll have like a lot more toms in this area. I like the way that he'll remove something that you would normally hear in like a standard pattern. And that allows us to focus in on the sound and the differences and how you might focus on one particular type of drum. It's very, very cool. Obviously, I don't actually play drums. I just do beatboxing. And because of that, I actually go and I listen to quite a few drums and think about how can I make that sound. And it's really fun when I get to hear drummers like Danny Carey and think about how would I make that sound just using my mouth and my vocal tract. So anyhow, really inspiring. Let's keep going. Ooh, I liked that transition. That's fun. Really, that's very effective because we've had such a drawn out instrumental section here that it can be a lot of sound that is coming at a person. sometimes we can become numb to the different kinds of sounds and the wall of sound that's there. So if you take that away, you slow it down, and then you have a vocal come in and have it just be the vocal, it's a nice way to add it back in there and then bring them all together. I want to speak a little bit to Kangaroo, because this was something I had to read about before doing this song, because I saw in the lyrics this kangaroo thing. I'm like, well, what does a kangaroo have to do with judging? And this is taken from the word kangaroo court, which is essentially like an unofficial court that's held to judge someone, and there's a predetermined outcome. So essentially a very unfair judicial system, which again is coming back to this big theme of the song. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because I know for me, I was like, why is a kangaroo judging, and why is a kangaroo stoned? And like, I had lots of big questions about this kangaroo. It has to do with the kangaroo court. Okay, cool. I love the way he kind of growls on "you must have been." Let's go back to listen to that, because I like it. Oh, that dissonance is crazy. Okay, that was an awesome note. I believe he's singing "Mind." Yeah. You spin out of your mind, right? That was beautifully held. It was super stable, had a little bit of fry on it too. You really hear that anger just pouring out, the energy in it. It's fantastic. Let's go back quite a bit here. I love the build. It's really nicely constructed. Oh, he even uses ters. He even almost like goes through a diphthong with R. R's are very strange R-colored vowels, and he leans into it here as well. So kind of similar to what he was doing with diphthongs earlier. I feel like that is such a gutsy note. He didn't even get a breath right before it. He takes it, he sings a note on the bottom and then jumps up. So that means he's got to really set up that bottom note well and make sure he's got a good breath. It's really good breath planning. But set that bottom up well so that that top note can continue for such a long time. This is the kind of note that does well with tons of pre-planning, if you hadn't already guessed. A lot of times people, when they're singing a low note and it immediately connects to a high note, what they'll do is they'll try to hike up all the sound from the low note. And instead, the better approach is usually to think, where is this high note going to end up? Okay, I'm going to dip down for the feeling. We're going to keep that high note feeling and dip down with that feeling to sort of snatch that low note into the high note instead. So take the overall phrase feeling from the high note instead of the low note, essentially. And I can hear that he's really set himself up well. Oh, let's do that one more time. Great. Is there no resolution there? Ooh! Cool. I love the intricacy of Tool's music. There's so many specific details that each band member is adding. They're all incredibly technically proficient. And I love the way that the specificity that each band member has with their instrument contributes to this beautiful complexity that's fun to try to unravel. Maynard's vocals in particular, I think, are perfectly suited for this band. It makes so much sense in the context. It feels independent of other members, yet still going together. And it also feels like it's not always the star of the show. It gives room to the instrumentalists to also be the stars at different moments. And I love that brewing fury that you can hear in his voice at any given moment. It's great. Loved the extra bit of screams in there we heard as well. But they were really tastefully placed. It wasn't the whole time. He really brought it in at specific moments to give us a little taste of that fury and then brought it back and contained it, which was fascinating to hear. I also love the way he's very specific with his diction. I think it's very telling that he is such a clean vocalist and such a careful artist in designing how each and every note is approached. Very impressive overall. If you have any specific interpretations that I didn't talk about, we'd love to hear them down in the comments below. And also, if you have any other recommendations, please post those in the comments below as well. We check those, we track your recommendations, so know that you are heard. And if you would like to be heard some more, you can come and say hello to me every single Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. I am here on YouTube at 8 o'clock a.m. Arizona time for a live premiere. You can also find me on Patreon, and I have courses about music in general and singing at thecharismaticvoice.com. See you somewhere soon.